Hello, my name's Aaron Patrick. I'm a chartered accountant, certified UK trainer for QuickBooks, and also that QuickBooks Chap on YouTube. With being National Payroll Week, I thought it'd be a good time to give you some insight of what it's like for an accountant to employ their first employee. Now, as an accountant, I was pretty confident in the way that I dealt with from a statutory point of view, so making sure things like PAYE, real-time information, auto-enrollment, and them sort of things was done correctly. But one thing we were even wary of as accountancy was making sure things like our HR and our legal options were all done correctly. So let's run through what your obligations of payroll is and how we as an accountants would kind of deal with it. So first of all, your first thing is paying your employees. So if you're taking on an employee, you need to be able to pay them. And to pay them, you need to make sure you're filing under what's called RTIs. That's real-time information. And also you have a requirement to make sure that you are up to date with what's called auto enrollment. So that's making sure that if your staff are eligible, that you are providing them the opportunity to have a pension. And that changes the game when it comes to employing people, because that makes it far more complicated and gives you more things to think about. And it all comes down to compliance. So it's making sure that you're running a payroll scheme, so PAYE, and making sure that you're ticking all the right boxes to make sure you've got everything in place to pay an employee. One of the big changes to payroll that happened in the last 4 years or so is the requirement to file what's called real-time information. So every time you make a payment to an employee, you're supposed to tell HMRC about that using software. For me as an accountant, when I'm talking to my clients, there's two ways I would really recommend they consider when it comes to paying employees. Either use a really good piece of software to make sure you're 100% compliant, or outsource that to an accountant themselves. Now, if you're going to use software, consider looking at the sort of software that automates it as much as possible for you. Think of a software that's going to help you and hold your hand, making sure that you're doing everything correctly. Personally, I really like QuickBooks Advanced Payroll for this. I like the fact that it's very methodical in the way you have to pay your employees and set your employees up, and it makes sure that I'm filing everything correctly. Even for my firm, I use Advanced Payroll by QuickBooks to make sure that I'm doing everything correctly. Because even though I deal with lots and lots of payrolls, I only look at my own payroll on a semi-regular basis. So I want to be able to go in with confidence that everything's done correctly. And when you get a more advanced software, it's going to be able to tell you things like if your employee has just had a birthday or an anniversary of being in your employment. Therefore, they may be critical areas that you need to look at, maybe national minimum wage complications, or there's going to be an enhancement to their pay packet. Either way, I want to trust my software to be doing that sort of thing for me. If one of my employees has a tax code notification, I want my software to be looking at that as well. So I really urge people to look at a really advanced piece of software. Other advantage you get from that is that not only will it automate things for you and run it through your bookkeeping solution, so the integration with QuickBooks Payroll and QuickBooks Online, but also it means that you're going to have that confidence that your employees are going to be looked after as well. Because you can give them a portal that they can go to, and with that portal they can then book holidays and they can get their pay slips and they can look at contracts and everything if you've got that in place. So option one is to get a really sophisticated piece of software that's going to help you and give you advantages. At the end of the day, you're going to have to pay for software majority of the time to get your payroll done correctly, and I would recommend looking at really advanced software. I would just recommend you find software that fits your business, and for me, QuickBooks Payroll Advanced does that. The other option is to outsource it. And if you're outsourcing your payroll, it's a real cost-effective way of making sure accountants like myself are doing the payroll on your behalf. So we take all the hard work in terms of making sure things are filed on time and making sure everything's all completed by the date it's completed by. And all you've got to do is provide the information to the outsourced payroll department, and then they run that payroll on your behalf. So really do look into that. You'll see it's quite cost-effective for you to outsource the payroll. But here at Boffix, one of the things that we really was apprehensive about when we first took on our first employee was just making sure that from a legal standpoint everything was okay. So you've got to make sure things like contracts are in place. You've got to make sure from a HR perspective that you're being fair to each employee that you've got. And also with all the COVID changes and everything that's coming through here, there's been a lot of changes lately. When it comes to your legal elements though, I highly recommend someone like Realtime. They've been instrumental in making sure that we've been compliant when it comes to our obligations as an employer. So they make it really easy for small businesses. Their whole purpose is to make sure for small businesses that legal requirements and legal elements are accessible. And using software, they can give you the ability to feel like you're confident in the way that you are dealing with your new staff. So they will have templates, they'll have experts to talk to, they'll have resources. And I really do urge someone who's just taken out an employee for the first time to think about looking at someone like Realtime to be able to make sure that you're compliant. And now has never been a more tricky time to employ someone. With the current situation that we're in, a lot of changes have happened. The way we have to keep our employees safe, the way we have to make sure that they're in a safe environment. Everything's changing. It's never been more applicable to make sure that your staff feel safe and secure. And with furlough and with all the uncertainty in the times ahead, it's really tricky at the moment to making sure you're keeping your staff motivated, you're keeping your staff consistent. One of my 2 tips I would say for that, first of all, is always make sure you've got good communication with employees. I really do see a benefit in having appraisals on a more regular basis. And on those appraisals, it's not just about looking backwards and looking at issues or problems and trying to sort that out, but also I really do think about looking forward. Look at innovation, look at ways in which you can really give that employee a reason to be able to be invested in the business. My second tip would be to think about, look at the QuickBooks Facebook group. Resources like that are really important in times like this. It's where you can go and ask questions from fellow accountants or fellow business owners. And that's where we can make sure that people are feeling supported throughout these troubling times. So please reach out on those sort of forums. If you are having issues, I can guarantee there'll be another employer that's going to have the same sort of issues. And these are the sort of things we want to make sure we're all being looked after and all make sure we get the right information coming your way. My name's Aaron Patrick. I'm head of accounts over at Boffix. It's been a pleasure to do this video for you. Catch me on Ask the Expert, or maybe just come over to our YouTube channel where we can look and give you some more advice as we go forward. It's been a pleasure to do this video for you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.
I told him I can be a fighter if you want. I'll be there to catch you if you fall. I can make it brighter when it's dark, I told him I would do it all for you, and I know you do it for me too. I can be a fighter if you want. I can be a fighter. I can be a fighter if you want. I can be a fighter if you want. Oh, the way that I feel, yeah, I know that it's real, 'cause I can get him out of my head. I don't care what we do, everything's feeling new. Even if we stay in bed, my heart is saying yeah. You know I want him, nah. My heart is saying yeah.